What up, though? I just want to say that I'm the first one to start speaking about evil folks. I think my first video was 2 years ago. Now everybody want to copy me and come out with their own evil folk story, but I'm here to say that for all y'all who channel is monetized, y'all need to go ahead and cash at me a cut of that YouTube check y'all getting.
Alright, you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
Nasty Work, the Evil Folks documentary. Some men are born evil, others are created by it. On Friday, March 13th, 1992, beneath a raging tropical depression, a child was born in darkness. During mid-delivery, the doctor that was bringing him into this world, a devout Catholic, felt an unholy presence so strong that he clutched his chest, dropped the newborn, and died of a heart attack before the baby even took his first breath. That child would grow up to become evil folks, the most feared inmate in the Georgia Department of Corrections history. This is his story. The hurricane-force wind shrieked like a dying animal as the telephone poles along Emory Highway began to snap. One by one, the wooden giants crashed down in showers of sparks, plunging Macon Medical Center into total darkness. Inside the maternity ward, registered nurse Brenda Jefferson fumbled for emergency flashlights. The backup generator failed, she would later testify. All we had were prayer candles from the chapel. Dr. Miller, God rest his soul, was delivering by flickering candlelight when it happened. A 17-year-old Patricia Williams, a crack addict in labor with no prenatal care, screamed as the storm rattled the windows. Dr. Peter Miller, a 72-year-old Catholic who delivered over 5,000 babies, suddenly froze. His hands started shaking, Nurse Jefferson recalled. He kept crossing himself and whispering in Latin. Then he screamed, not in pain, but pure terror, clutched his chest, and collapsed. The slimy newborn baby hit the cold tile floor with a wet smack and didn't even cry despite his little head ramming the hard tiles. The infant simply stared with eyes that reflected the candlelight like a cat's. A weird and eerie stare that the nurse to her core, which she tried her best to ignore as she quickly scooped the newborn off the ground and wrapped it in a nearby towel as its mama watched, relieved. Long before he was known in the Georgia chain gang as evil folks, he was just a wiry little boy named Dion growing up in the rough Macon, Georgia, called Fort Hill. The neighborhood was hard, one-bedroom apartments stacked like forgotten dominoes, cracked sidewalks, and broken porch lights that barely kept the shadows away at night. But the real darkness wasn't in the streets. It was already growing inside Dion. Even as a child, there was something different about him. His mama worked 2 shifts and came home exhausted every night, leaving Dion plenty of unsupervised hours to roam the small apartment. The rats were always around, scratching inside the walls, darting across the floor, sometimes bold enough to climb the counters and eat off of the plates of food left on the stove. While most kids would scream or run, Dion got curious, then obsessed. He started catching the rats. At first, he used old shoe boxes and peanut butter bait, but when that wasn't exciting enough, he rigged up little traps with kitchen knives and rubber bands. Once caught, Dion didn't just kill the rats. He studied them, carved their eyes out with his mama's dull kitchen knife set, snapped their little necks in two. Sometimes he would watch them suffer as he threw them into pots of boiling water. The screeches of the rats fascinated him. Their tiny eyes wide with panic made him feel powerful. He learned what pain looked like early, and it made him feel in control, caused him to grin that evil grin that C-Bill would later mention in his YouTube stories. Word around the neighborhood was that Dion was off. Kids kept their distance. Dogs and cats sensed an evil presence in him and stayed far from the apartment when they could. But his next move cemented what was growing inside him. One hot summer afternoon, while hanging around the older kids near the corner store, Dion spotted an opportunity. Lil Marcus, a 14-year-old who always acted tough, had just gotten a brand new air rifle for his birthday. It was black, shiny, and dangerous looking to a boy Dion's age. He wanted it badly. That night, While Marcus and his boys were distracted playing dice behind the corner store, Dion slipped into Marcus's backyard and stole the BB gun right off the back porch. He hid it under his bed for days, studying how it worked. Pumping the lever, testing its aim on old cans behind the building, but cans weren't enough for long. Soon birds started dropping from the telephone wires. Stray cats limped away with BBs lodged in their ribs. One day, he even cornered a neighborhood Rottweiler, popping it repeatedly until it couldn't bark anymore. The thrill of controlling something, even in small things, fed something dark inside him. Every hit, every squeal made his evil grin wider. By the time he turned 11, everyone on his side of Mactown knew to keep their pets and their younger siblings away from Dion. His mother, overwhelmed and blind to what was happening under her roof, chalked it up to boys being boys. But the streets were starting to talk. That boy ain't right. He got a cold heart. That little one gonna be something evil when he grow up. They were right. By the time his teenage years hit and he joined the Gangsta Disciples, Dion had already earned his name Evil Folks, not because of what he said, but because of what he was willing to do.
What's up, y'all? My name Lil Red Riding Hood, and I was in the Bibb County Jail with Evil Folks. We was in C-Pod, he was in cell 290, and I was 3 doors down in 293. I banged that 5, but we got real cool because we was car partners busting them niggas' heads on that spades table dot one day. I think it was a Thursday night. About an hour before lockdown, we heard somebody let out a death yell in one of the cells. I was laying on my bunk at the time and it sounded close, so I jumped up to see what was going on. When I stepped out my cell, I immediately saw niggas crowding around Evil Folks' room. Then that crazy bastard opened up his door and told niggas to back up so he could go take a shower. When he walked out, he was covered in blood. I'm talking some shit out of a horror movie, dog. That niggas looked like he was just swimming in red paint or something. People looked in his cell and saw his bunkmate passed out on the floor near the toilet, with both his feet cut off and blood just pumping all over the floor. Old man Rogers threw up from the sight of that. Evil Folks' bunkmate was a tall, skinny white boy named Eric that was strung out on the cream real bad. All he spent his money on was dope and cigarettes. He never took showers or even brushed his teeth. I heard Evil getting on him about his hygiene several times, even bitch slapping him one day for not washing his hands after taking the shit. As Evil went to the shower that day, he yelled out to us watching that he borrowed a machete from one of the Migos in there and used it to cut off each of Eric's feet because they were stank as fuck and was smelling up the cell. I ain't never seen or heard of a dude doing nothing like that till that day.
By the time Evil Folks hit 15, the Macon Police Department knew his name like they knew the sound of gunshots at night. Too familiar, too frequent. He wasn't just some troubled kid anymore. He was becoming a problem. His face was sharp, eyes colder than winter wind, and there was always a little smirk that stayed twisted on his lips like he was in on some sick joke no one else could hear. The older heads in the hood noticed him too. OGs who ran trap houses, corner boys hustling, even the neighborhood junkies, they all knew Evil Folks had a different kind of hunger. He didn't just want money, he wanted control, fear, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get it. The opportunity came one humid July night. Lil Rico, a small-time dope boy for a local trap house, had been slipping product from his own plug. Word got back to Big Harold. The plug. Big Harold was too smart to get his hands dirty himself. He needed someone who was hungry, someone who wouldn't flinch, someone like Evil Folks. Harold sent word through one of his goons, tell that little demon motherfucker from Fort Hill I got a job for him. If he handle it right, doors gon' open. When Evil Folks got the message, he didn't hesitate. No questions, no fear, just that same. Evil grinned. The plan was simple. Lil Rico was always at the corner liquor store late at night, running his mouth, flexing with money that didn't belong to him. Evil Folks waited in the alley across the street. The weight of the .380 Harold gave him heavy in his hoodie pocket. This wasn't no BB gun. This was real. The moment Rico stepped out the store, Evil Folks moved like a shadow. "Aye, Rico!" he called. Rico turned, confused, about to speak. But that's when Evil Folks raised the gun and pulled the trigger. Bang! The first shot caught him in the chest. Rico dropped, gasping, eyes wide in shock. Evil Folks stepped closer, looked him dead in the face. No words, no mercy. 2 more shots rang out, then silence. For a few seconds, evil folks stood over him, breathing steady. The rush was electric. This was different than the rats, the birds, the cats. This was power, raw and heavy. He walked away like nothing happened, disappearing into the maze of Fort Hill apartments as the sirens screamed in the distance. By morning, everybody knew evil folks done caught his first body. The whispers grew louder. The respect came fast. And the fear? The fear was thick like smoke. Big Harold kept his word. Doors opened, money flowed, guns got bigger. And evil folks, he just kept getting colder. The night Evil did some extra diabolical shit, it started like any other night. The Demon Man was drunk off Hennessy and Remy, sitting in a backroom poker game with some of the city's mid-level hitters. After pocketing a few bands and winnings, he called up one of his regular hoes, a young streetwalker named Candace, and told her to meet him back at his spot. When she arrived, she already knew the routine. No small talk, no emotions, just business. But Candace, nervous and a little too high off some dirty pills she took earlier, made a mistake that would cost her life. During the act, she slipped up and used her teeth while giving him top. Evil folks flinched in pain as she sucked in, bit him, shoving her off him hard. "What the fuck wrong with you, bitch?" he snapped, breathing heavy, eyes flaring. Candace panicked, apologizing, but her voice cracked too much. The apology made it worse. The sound of fear always did something strange to him. It didn't calm him. It triggered him. The old grin crept back on his face. "You think you can bite my wood and walk out my door?" he whispered, almost playfully. Candace's eyes widened as he reached under the bed, pulling out his chrome 380. Nah, folks, it was an accident. Please, she begged, trembling. But evil folks was already gone inside his head. Bang! One shot to her face. The blood sprayed across the fake silk sheets like red paint on canvas. Her body hit the floor like a rag doll, and just like that, another life gone without hesitation. He calmly stood up, wiped himself off, and lit a Newport. The next morning, the body disappeared. No police report, no search. In Macon, girls like Candace didn't get headlines. Evil folks had cleanup crews now, young crash dummies who would gladly take a bag of cash to make problems vanish. The murder became just another secret buried beneath the cracked concrete. But for evil folks, it wasn't a secret. It was fuel. The legend grew. They said he didn't just kill for money. They said he killed for the hell of it. They said evil folks ain't got no soul left in them. And they were right.
This that New Jersey, Georgia kid in the building. My name go hard and I was at 2 camps with evil folks. Bro was the true definition of a gangster. And that's a Salvatore Ferragamo fact. Y'all heard all my evil folk stories on my YouTube channel, but it's one event that went down that I ain't tell y'all about. It was one day this Crip dude came in the dormitory with a mouthful of diamond and gold teeth. When evil folks first saw the dude, he told me he had to have them fronts. I was like, how the hell you gonna get the man teeth, evil? His teeth are permanently fixed in his mouth. They not removable. Evil folks just grinned at me and said, this ain't that, and that ain't this. Where there's a will, there's a way. To make a long story short, evil tricked the dude into betting on a dice game, cause the dude claimed he was the best dice player in the chain game. He supposedly had won over 5 bands in the past year or some shit. What he didn't know was that evil had a pair of trick dice, which he was able to beat the dude for one of his gold teeth. I guess the dude took the bet because he knew he was going to win. After losing, he told Evil he was going to send him a green dot for the value of the tooth, but Evil told him, fuck that. He wanted the tooth. I can't remember dude's name, but I do remember that he was from Columbus, Georgia, and he had some size on him, at least 250 and about 6 feet 1 or 2. When evil folks' little ass called him in the room to hit, he laughed because evil only about 5'7" or 5'6". When they went in there, it only took about 2 full minutes before evil folks came out without a mark on him and holding one of dude's bloody teeth in his 2 fingers, grinning as he spit on it to wipe the blood away before putting it on his tooth. Evil folks was a wild one, and that's a fear of God essentials fact.
Sorry, folks. Quick commercial break.
That's just like black folks to come on this YouTube thing and look at all these G.K. David movie stories, but don't send no Cash App or even hit the damn like or subscribe buttons. My people ain't shit. No, I'm just playing. I love all y'all. Well, except for them niggas that broke in my Cadillac last Tuesday. Fuck them niggas. Y'all go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for my boy so he can keep blessing y'all with this good content.
Thank you, Stephen. You're welcome, Calvin.
It was supposed to be a chill afternoon. For once, Evil Folks wasn't on any kind of business runs. He was riding downtown with his new girl, Keisha, in her burgundy Kia Sorento. She was young, a thick little brown-skinned biddy with a pretty smile and no real idea of who she was really dealing with because she had just moved to Bibb County from Stone Mountain a month prior and ran into Evil at one of the local clubs. She saw that he had money, ice, and danger clinging to him like his cologne. Keisha had a traffic ticket to pay, speeding down Riverside the 2 weeks before, and asked Evil to roll with her to pay it so they didn't suspend her driver's license. He agreed, partly to keep her happy, partly because he ain't smashed yet, and any little good deed would help him look like a good dude in her eyes. The GDs and the Crips had been bumping heads for a few months at that time, ever since a dope deal went sideways and left 2 bodies on Houston Avenue. The streets were tense. Every glance felt like it could turn into a war. As Keisha walked into the municipal court building to handle her fine, Evil Folks stayed behind, sitting low in the driver's seat, watching people move like ants on the sidewalks of Cherry Street. His eyes were always scanning. That old paranoia never left him. And then it happened. Rolling down the street like a parade float came a 92 Caprice Box Chevy. Sky blue paint shining under the Georgia sun, big 28-inch Dubs rims spinning slow like a clock counting down. Behind the wheel was one of Evil Folks' most bitter ops, Chunky Loke, a fat crip out of Bloomfield known for running his mouth and putting in work for his set. The two locked eyes instantly, no words, no hesitation. Both men reached for their fire at the same time. Gunshots rang out in broad daylight. Evil Folks leaned across the passenger seat, letting loose with a Taurus 9 he had recently bought. Through the open window, the glass from Chunky Loke's Caprice shattered as his 40 cal answered back. Sparks flew off metal. Pedestrians screamed and scattered. The downtown streets turned into pure chaos. And then fate twisted the whole thing. The mayor of Macon, a tall, clean-cut man in a tailored suit, had just walked out of one of the nearby government office buildings. In the middle of the hail of bullets, one stray round, Evil Folks round, grazed the mayor's temple, spinning him to the ground. Sirens wailed almost instantly. Macon PD patrol cars swarmed in from every direction. The whole thing was over in seconds. Both Evil Folks and Chunky Loke were aggressively taken down at gunpoint, cuffed face first on the hot concrete. As news cameras and cell phones recorded the whole event, the charges came heavy. Once investigators recovered the shells and matched ballistics, it was clear the bullet that struck the mayor came from Evil Folks' 9mm. His criminal record didn't do him any favors either. Attempted murder on a public official carries serious weight. The DA was eager to make an example out of him. The defendant has a long, violent history, the prosecutor told the court. This was not random. This was Evil Folks being Evil Folks. Chunky Loke, despite being just as guilty in the eyes of the law, caught a lighter sentence. The defendant has a long, violent history, the prosecutor told the court. This was not random. This was Evil Folks being Evil Folks. Chunky Loke, despite being just as guilty in the eyes of the law, caught a lighter sentence. He got 20 years on weapons charges and attempted murder related to the shootout, but not the mayor's injury. Evil Folks, life without parole, which brought him to his infamous run in the Georgia prison system. But prison wasn't the end for Evil Folks. It was just a new hunting ground. The Georgia Department of Corrections had no idea what kind of storm they were bringing behind their walls. Within months of arriving, Evil Folks aligned himself with the GDs already running deep inside the chain gang. His reputation followed him into the prison before he did. He moved like a shadow, committing stabbings, running extortion rackets, even orchestrating assaults on other gangs. Most of the officers feared him, inmates respected him, and rival gangs plotted but rarely touched him. Fort Hill had raised him cold. The streets made him cruel. But prison? Prison turned Evil Folks into something worse. A fucking chain gang legend.
Hey everybody, my name Billy Ray, and I was an officer at Smith when this inmate was there. I recall working G building one night, and as I was making my rounds in G2, I passed by a cell on the top range with the door cracked. I heard a gurgling sound coming from inside, so I immediately opened the door and witnessed this inmate named Evil Folks shoving a boy's face into the commode and making him eat feces and urine that was inside of it. The shit was smeared all over that boy's face when evil folks pulled his head back up for air. Then he told him to lick it off his lips as if it was a melting Sneaker chocolate bar. It was disgusting. I couldn't believe this evil folks boy didn't hear all of the inmates in the dorm yelling 12 on the floor. Whenever officers enter a dorm, they start yelling that out to warn any of their fellow inmates that may be doing something illegal, to be alert. Evil folks must have didn't care because he didn't even acknowledge me. Even after I yanked out my radio and called the distress code, after ordering him to stop what he was doing. I later found out he made that boy eat that stuff because he owed him 47 supper trays after losing a bet over that Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Poor feller was one of the Mexicans and actually thought Manny was gonna beat that boy. Anywho, they put that evil folks boy in the tier program for 9 months, and I retired before he was let back out.
What's up, Foundation? This your boy Saturday Morning Cartoons 5-3. I just listened to this evil folks documentary and gotta say, he wouldn't have made it in the Alabama prison system. These white folks over here would have got rid of him quick. But anyway, I'm just chiming in to let y'all know me and a few more of these prison genre YouTubers is starting a podcast called Prison Ninja Podcast. I think it's gonna be me, that guy named Bill, Feezy, Bill Feezy, that old timer Banky Pound Cake, and a few others. We still putting things together, so y'all look out for that podcast coming soon here on the GK David Movie Stories channel. All right, y'all. It is what it isn't, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be, or C or D or E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z.